Everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool Transfer Show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Today's been a bit of an interesting day in regards to transfers. We received a bomber from Paul Joyce, who's been quiet for some time, so we'll talk about that later in the show. Plus, there's been some sort of development with the Rodrygo deal. I'll also speak about potential targets. If Liverpool aren't able to get Rodrygo in the end. And plus, we've got an official announcement where Liverpool have signed Hugo Ekitike. So let's start with the first rumor, and that is regarding Rodrygo. Now, the current rumor is that PSG have submitted or are ready to submit a bid of 100 million euros, which I believe is around uh, 80 million pounds. Which I'll double check now. Um, so look. So roughly 86 million pounds. So just a little bit above the valuation there. Um, and this is a name that's been linked with Liverpool for quite some time, for the last few weeks. And I think we've all kind of just had it programmed in our mind that he's going to be the number one target. But unfortunately, some people don't like this journalist, but James Pierce, aka Killjoy, reported today that Rodrygo is not currently viewed as a possible replacement for Luis Diaz if he decides to leave Liverpool. Now, my thoughts on James Pierce releasing that sort of news or that tweet, you've always got to take it with a pinch of salt. It might be a subliminal sort of tweet as well. He does tend to do that. Well, he has done that in the past, so you can't really take as gospel that we're not in for Rodrigo as well. He's saying that he's not going to be viewed as a replacement for Diaz, so maybe he's viewed as a replacement for someone else in the team, if that makes sense. So it's going to be interesting because PSG have shown some interest now. Don't know how reliable that is. But I do feel like there will be other teams that will want to try and get Rodrigo into their side. Even Barcelona were linked to him earlier today, but that's not going to happen because they've just signed Marcus Rashford on loan and it was unveiled to the Barcelona fans today. So, big question is Rodrigo a realistic target or will we need to move on and identify another player? At this stage, I still feel like he is a target. I'm not going to take James's peers tweet and think, oh, it's completely closed doors now. We have to shut down that idea and move on to another target. I feel like he's one of the names shortlisted as a potential replacement for Diaz. Once we get some clarification regarding Diaz's future, I would believe we will start making inquiries for the likes of Rodrigo and other potential players as well. So let's see what happens. I expect us to have some sort of approach made in the next few days, especially with the Diaz deal possibly escalating now, which we'll talk about later on in the show as well. But let's just paint the picture, or let's just say from this kind of situation, what if Rodrigo is not a realistic target, or he's not willing to move away from Real Madrid? You know, who would be alternative targets for Liverpool? If you watched my show before, you will know Bradley Barcola is my number one target. I feel like he would fit the bill perfectly at Liverpool. Very aggressive attacker, likes to attack behind the defenders. Very quick, very dynamic, can score goals. He had about 40 GA last season in 58 games and is very versatile. Can play on the left, can play on the right. So definitely a player that I feel like fits the bill and could be a lethal option in our front line. Another option, and he seems to be a fan favorite amongst certain crowds, I guess, is Anthony Gordon. Now, we are in sort of talks or some sort of dialogue with Newcastle, not for this particular player, but of course, we're trying to see if there's any way that we can try and recruit Isak from Newcastle. So, with those discussions have haven't taken place, and possibly maybe further talks will happen in the coming days and weeks. You know, would Anthony Gordon be a good option for us if we were to sell Diaz? For me, the straight answer is no. I don't see Anthony Gordon being a viable option to replace Diaz. whoever we try to sign as Diaz's replacement, I feel like it needs to be a player of his caliber or even someone that has a higher ceiling. If Anthony Gordon was that player, then on paper it wouldn't be the worst case scenario because he's Premier League proven, I guess. He's a boyhood red, so he should have that passion to play for the team. But he wouldn't be a starter. He'd be a backup to Gakpo. So for me, I would want us to sign a player that adds a bit of a fear factor to our oppositions and someone that will really challenge Gakpo in the team. And in hindsight, will actually be a starter ahead of him. That would be the caliber of a player that I would want us to sign. Um, so for me, the answer is no. I wouldn't take Anthony Gordon. But if he becomes the only option, the money has to be right. I don't think we should be spending over 50, 60 million for Gordon. I think he'd cost a lot more. I think he'd cost around that 80, 90, that kind of range. So for me, he's not worth it. And if he's not going to be a starter, that's a lot of money, in my eyes. So let me know in the chat who you would take as, or who would you pick as an alternative if Rodrygo isn't a possibility, just to see how people are viewing other targets as well. Before I move on to the next rumor, I see we've got a few comments here. From Hamza Islam, bro, have you read about the poor Joyce Bomber saying that Liverpool are set to spend another 300 million this summer? I did see it. I saw it just before I went live, so we'll talk about it later in the show. Um, he said if you are set to spend another 300 million this summer, surely Isak is on his way to LFC. At this stage, if that is what we're hearing, and Paul Joyce is one of the most reliable journalists, especially when it comes to Liverpool news, you can't rule it out. You really can't. It does definitely add a bit of spice to the situation. But I never like, that kind of news to be broken out into the public because now other clubs will be aware that Liverpool have another 300 million to spend. So they might try and bump up their prices for their assets or their players, I should say. So that would be the negative kind of response to that because now it's public knowledge. But it can also be looked at where most teams should be fearful of Liverpool because if we want one of your players, rest assured, we'll get him. We've got the money, and we'll try our utmost to sign that player. Uh, so let's see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. It's just added a bit of spice to a window that's already been, so amazing right now. But let's see what happens. See if there's any development in regards to Isak and Rodrygo to join as well. If we've got 300 million in the locker, then you can't rule it out, can you? Because the funds are there. A lot of people would have concerns about salary. Well, if you've got an extra 300 million to play around with, salary can definitely be covered within that budget. So you just never know. It's crazy that we would be willing to spend another 300. We've already spent close to 300 right now. So that would total to 600. That's never been heard of in regards to Liverpool, probably any other team in England or Europe even. I don't think Real Madrid you spend that kind of money every window. So yeah, crazy time right now. Let's see what happens. And Hamza says, I believe this summer we signed 7 players in total. Interesting. So we've already signed 3, well, technically 4 because we signed the goalkeeper as well. Well, that's 5 actually. We signed 2 goalkeepers, but let's not include those 2 players. So it's 3 major players. I'm expecting us to sign 3 more. If we get 4 more, wow, that'd be amazing. But let's see. You never know. Hamza says, I still believe Konate leave is despite being offered contracts. We'll speak about Konate later on as well. Um, and Hamza's comments, are you playing FPL this season? If you are, can you make a league with me, please? I've got a league set up from previous seasons. I've just not reviewed. I've not had a chance to look at the app. So once I renew the league, I will share the code with everyone, and then yeah, feel free to join the league. And hopefully it should be fun this season. Moving on to your other comment is, how much do you get paid since there's about 5 people always watching? Do you have a second job? I don't get paid for YouTube right now, so because I'm still working my way up to get a high number of subscribers, and you have to. I don't know if it's public knowledge, but it should be. But to get monetize, you have to have a certain number of subscribers. I've not, met that threshold yet. So once I do, then maybe I'll be eligible to earn money. So I already have. I'm working. This is kind of like my hobby, where most people watching TV or watching movies in the evening. I'm logging on, I'm doing the podcast, and I'm speaking to the world about football. So that's my hobby. That's what I would like to do rather than, sitting down watching TV all night. So yeah, this is more of a hobby, more than anything else. Um, Hamza said Bakala day. So yeah, definitely aligned there. I would take neither Gordon or Bakala. So for me, Barcola has to be the option if Rodrygo isn't a possibility. Katie, big up Katie says we don't want Gordon at Liverpool. No, thank you. I don't want him either. But there seems to be a section of the fan base that are really on that Gordon train. Um, and it has been since last year. It's not even, from recent times. So for me, bit of a concern that that is a player that people think could come in and replace Diaz. For me, he's not a good enough option. Hamza says I would take any of Gordon, Barcola, or Rodrigo happily. Rodrigo, Barcola, Gordon, I wouldn't be overwhelmed. I would be underwhelmed more than anything else. So let's see. Hopefully, that is not the target that we go for, but you just never know in this day and age. Now let's move on to the next rumor, and that is regarding Luis Diaz. So yesterday, I reported that Bayern Munich were ready to improve their bid to around £65 million. And I questioned that offer because I thought that's not going to be enough for Liverpool. And I think Liverpool will try and hold out for as much as they can. And now today it's reported that Bayern Munich are ready to offer 81 million euros, which in pounds equals to 70 million. So is this enough to seal the deal for Bayern Munich? I think it is. I think 70 million would have been the minimum or the sweet spot for the club to accept an offer. And I think, we could probably get further developments in the coming days. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is an announcement that a deal has been agreed between the two clubs and Luis Diaz is set to move on and join Bayern Munich. It's a good deal for the player because obviously he'll get a financial increase, to a large extent. He'll be playing in Europe. He'll be playing for one of the best teams, challenging for the Champions League, general favourites for the Bundesliga year in, year out. So, he gets to continue to build his legacy by winning more trophies at European level. And maybe in the future, the Saudi move, could be done. But right now, I think he doesn't want to move to the Middle East and he would rather stay in Europe. So it would be a win-win situation for him. For Liverpool, I would be slightly disappointed that he goes because I feel like he showed his best season to date in a Liverpool shirt. And I feel like this season it would have been a continuation. I feel like he would have definitely left off where he did last season and showcased his form even further. So that would be my slight disappointment. And also last season he showed his versatility. He was able to play up top and also in his primary position as a left winger, even played at the right side on a couple of occasions. So for me, his versatility was very important. And, he always was a player that worked hard for the team. You know, Unfortunately, since we signed him, he always gets compared to Mane because of, what Mane brought to the team. And of course, he's taken over Mane's position in the lineup as well. But he's not the same type of player. But having said that, what you can say about Diaz is that he gives his all in every game that he plays in. Hard worker, aggressive in his pressing, does his best. So for me, he would be a miss. I know some fans are not quite with that notion. They're not too bothered if he goes because we're going to get a handsome sort of paycheck out of the deal as well. But I think sometimes it's not the best thing to do when you're chopping and changing too much within a particular window. So that's my concern. It's all good and well having a lot of money to spend, but I don't feel like the club needs to make crazy wholesale changes just for the sake of it. We have to be very smart and calculate with who we recruit and which players depart from the squad as well. So for me, he would be a miss, but hopefully Liverpool can reinvest into the squad and sign a left winger, a player of Barcola or Rodrigo's caliber. For me, fits the bill. But yeah, we'll I guess we'll get some sort of indication once the Diaz deal is pretty much agreed or close to being completed. So let's see, what happens in regards to Diaz. On to some official news, and that is an official picture. It's not AI, it's nothing, created by anyone else. That is a legit picture. Hugo Ekitike is officially a Liverpool player. He actually flies over to Asia tonight. Well, he's probably flown is tonight, it's already finished now. So he's probably on the plane right now, on his way to Asia, and he will get to meet his new teammates and start training with the squad. So for me, I'm very pleased about this signing. He's a player that I feel like has huge potential, and I feel like with given time and a run in the team, I feel like he could definitely surprise a few people, and I feel like he can be quite prolific in our team. When you've got the likes of Florian Wirtz, Mohamed Salah, Gakpo around you, you've got a lot of creativity, and you've got a player in Ekitike who is a team player. He likes to roam around. He likes to link up with players around the pitch. He doesn't normally hold a static position. He's quite, interchangeable, and I think that will suit the fluidity of how we play up top. And I feel like it gives you an exciting prospect, kind of similar to what we see at PSG, where there's no static position for a lot of the players. They seem to like move around. I'm not saying Liverpool are going to replicate that completely, but we're not going to have a sort of static traditional number nine. And that's why we didn't go for certain profiles, even though us fans were scoping the market and seeing, this player is available because he's a clinical finisher. But we want a different profile. We want someone a bit more than just a finisher. We want someone who's an all-rounder player that can drop deep, collect the ball, link up play, but also someone that can play on the shoulder and be a finisher up top as well. So we want someone that's a hybrid of a 9 and a 10, which I like to refer to as a 9.5 type of player. So for me, that's exactly what we're getting at Ekitike. It's going to be very interesting in terms of what happens with Isak, because those rumors haven't died down. I feel like it wouldn't be correct to, sign Ekitike for £80 million and then, promise him that he's going to be the star player, or he's going to be the one that leads the line. And all of a sudden we get Isak, and then he's further down the pecking order literally as soon as he's walked in. I wouldn't feel like that's the best sort of treatment for a new signing. Now, some fans may argue and say that's not the right mentality to have as a fan. That's probably a point of view that us Liverpool fans have, apparently, because we try to always defend our players, or we try to say we can't stop the progression of certain players within the team. I get that notion, but end of the day, we've just made a signing of 80 million for a striker. You're not going to put your striker of that worth on the bench. It doesn't make sense to do that. So of course, when a player like Isak is available in the market, you have to be around the mix. You have to try and show that you have a strong interest and you want to acquire that player. But I feel like it wouldn't be right to sign Ekitike and then put him on the bench and allow Ekitike to be the main Isak to be the main striker. But you never know. Of course, if that day happens where we do sign Isak, then we'll have that conversation. But I feel like the perfect balance in the team would be to have Ekitike as a replacement for Darwin Núñez, and then we'll have a replacement for Luis Diaz. So it'll be a natural left winger. I feel like that way you've got a balanced team. You've got players able to play in their natural positions. No one's being a makeshift left winger, or they're playing in a completely different position altogether. So I feel like we'll get a clear indication, what happens. I think it all comes down to Isak. If he stays at Newcastle, he'll have to sign a new contract to show his commitment. If that's not possible, then Isak will need to either move clubs, and the likely destination, if you exclude Liverpool from this scenario, is in Saudi, where Al Hilal have shown a lot of interest in signing the Newcastle striker. So, we'll get further sort of indication in terms of what happens. But in regards to Ekitike, I'm very, very excited to see him in a red shirt. Hopefully, we'll get to see him in action later on this week. I think it might be a little bit too early because he's flying there now. So he'll arrive tomorrow. He'll probably get to train either tomorrow afternoon or on Friday, but he could be on the bench because our next fixture is this Saturday against AC Milan at 12:30 UK time. So he might be on the bench, or if he's not involved or doesn't participate, he should be able to get some game time next Wednesday on the 30th as we face Yokohama in Japan. So regardless, what day he plays, it's a very exciting prospect for Liverpool. And I think rival fans, I won't say they're worried, but they're definitely acknowledging the fact that we have signed a very, very good player. So for me, I'm pleased with the signing. Um, whether we get Isak on board as well, it remains to be seen. Honestly, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm not too sure, if that's a viable option. I feel like it's not, despite, Paul Joyce dropping our bumble today saying that we've got another 300 million to spend. So when you make those kind of statements, people start piling up a list, in terms of who we're going to sign. I don't think that's going to be the case, but, we'll find out in due course. Before we move on, got a couple more comments here. Graham, big up Graham. He says, there is a side of me that wishes we had just bought a few bargain basement, players who turn out to be brilliant. Yeah, but I feel like we're at this level now where, because we're Premier League champions, we're trying to get accomplished players in the squad. And I quite like that because that's never been the Liverpool way, especially in recent years. We always try to sign players that have the potential and build them up and then try and get them to a certain level. I guess Ekitike kind of fits that mold because he's not the complete forward right now. He's on the cusp, don't get me wrong, but he's on the verge. So I kind of get he's not quite a bargain basement type sign. I'm far from it. We spent 80 million on him, but in terms of his development or where he is at this stage of his career, he's not accomplished it. He's still one level behind, and I feel like in a Liverpool shirt, he should be ready to take that level into next season. So for me, we might not sign that type of player, but I'm enjoying the fact that we're signing established quality players. Signing Verts as a number 10, it's something that never came to my mind. I thought that was a far-fetched dream that would never become a reality. And here we are. We've signed him, and he looks very impressive. Whenever I see training clips of the team in recent days, he looks very impressive. Just the way he passes the ball, he pushes the ball, his first touch and moving around, he looks real quality. So, yeah, exciting times for Liverpool for sure. Let's got a comment here from Double D. Big up Double D as always. He says, thought he'd be cheaper, but it's not my money, so who cares? I agree with that. I think it might take him a bit to get rolling, but when he does, it will be peak for other teams. I agree. I feel like with Ekitike, he'll definitely get that sort of patience from the Liverpool fans. We're not going to expect him to produce miracles right away, but I do feel like with him, once he's accustomed to the intensity and the physicality of the league, I feel like he'll be able to play his natural game a little bit more. And once he, forms partnerships within the team with other players, that's where you're going to see the best out of him. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and Vert playing together because I feel like that's going to be a key sort of duo in our attack. They're definitely going to interchange. So you'll see Verts making overlapping runs and with Ekatike dropping deep and vice versa. So it's going to be a very, very exciting prospect. Or you might see them playing alongside each other where not quite, two strikers up top, but, advanced attackers to an extent. So it's going to be very, very interesting next season. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the prospect of seeing Ekitike in a Liverpool shirt. Now, moving on to Ibu Konate. Now, there was some sort of news earlier on where it was favouring Real Madrid, where it felt like they were the one that was going to have a discussion with Liverpool to find out if it's a possibility that a deal can be done this summer. But then we just got some breaking news about an hour ago that Konate has received a new offer from Liverpool. It's an improved proposal, and it has been sent to the defenders' representatives. I saw a tweet earlier on. I don't know how reliable it is. In fact, I'll share it with you guys so you can see it on the screen. So if you're aware of this person, feel free to let me know how credible it is. But with anything that you see on Twitter, it's always got to be taken with a pinch of salt, I guess. So this is what I saw on Twitter. So the tweet says Liverpool have submitted a new and improved contract offer to centre back Konate. I understand the contract offer is 180k per week plus bonuses and a contract length of 5 years. Um, and this person has said, as he reported months ago, Konate's priority has always been signing with Liverpool despite interest from Real Madrid. There is now a full confidence that Konate will extend his stay at Liverpool. So I don't know how reliable this person is, but we'll take his word for it in this sort of instance. Is that good enough for him to accept that proposal? 180k, I feel like seems a little bit less to what he probably wants, because I've heard rumors that he wants to be paid, in similar wages to what Saliba's earning. That's the kind of sort of benchmark that he has. He's amongst a crop of players that are young and are on the verge of becoming one of the best defenders. So that is him and Saliba, and I feel like they're in the same category. So he'd probably want around the same sort of bracket, but 180k would be, you know, twice or more than twice, two and a half times the amount that he's currently earning. He's earning around 70k per week. So of course, with it being 180, it's a huge uh sort of difference in terms of it being 110k extra. So plus bonuses, a lot of our salaries in the squad, you get a good sort of base. It won't be an inflated base, but it also, it'll be incentivized in terms of appearances, goals, and assists. And in Konate's case, more probably clean sheets and appearances and all that sort of stuff. So if this is true that there's a bit more confidence that Konate will extend his stay at Liverpool, then I am all for it. I rate Konate very, very well, or should I say very highly. I think he's one of the best defenders in the league, probably in Europe. Top five would be the way I'd put it. I don't think there's many defenders out there that bring what he presents in on the table. He's probably one of the best defenders, in my opinion, when it comes to defending the channels. We've had number 66 playing over the years, and he's always been a bit more adventurous, and he inverts a lot. So because of that, Konate had to do a two-man job at times. He had to play centre back and had to cover at right back as well. And for me, that's why, he's shown his dominance over the years. Last season, he's actually done really well to keep fit. He wasn't injured that many times last year. So hopefully those days are behind us and we're able to, you know, monitor his sort of fitness and not push him too much. Also, with the possibility of us adding another defender to our squad, you know, that will be key in terms of our success because then we can rotate between, three or four defenders. So if we sign Konate and we were also able to sign Guehi, then we would have a list of four top quality defenders, in my opinion. You'll have Van Dijk, Konate, Guehi, and Joe Gomez. For me, that's the perfect balance there. And you've got four defenders that can play alongside each other with complete ease, and they've got the quality as well. So if Konate signs, then I'm going to go with this old saying, it will feel like a new signing because having his long-term future sorted out is a breath of fresh air, and it'll be like a nice boost to have with the season starting very, very soon. So let's see, what happens. See if there's any truth to the rumor. It's more positive because we've not heard anything from a Liverpool's point of view. We've just heard that Real Madrid are not tapping him up, but they're speaking behind the scenes and trying to get him to play the remainder of his contract in order to facilitate a free transfer to Real Madrid. But now we're hearing something from a Liverpool's point of view where we've submitted a new bid, an improved contract offer. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, it's enough to satisfy Konate and he signs a new contract. And I've seen him on social media, doing all of these social media things with the club where, he's interviewing players and all that sort of stuff. Like, doesn't look like he's unhappy, does he? Like, he seems like he's pleased in his current sort of position, and he's happy to be part of the squad. So I really hope he stays. I feel like he's such a great character, and I do feel like he has great qualities on the pitch in terms of what he does defensively. I feel like there's a leader in him as well. Like he's that type of player. He won't be the most vocal of leaders, so he's not that sort of player. But I feel like with age and experience, he'll be able to form that kind of characteristics about him in due time. So for me, I would be so pleased if we're able to sign um, Konate on a new contract, of course, but only time will tell. Hopefully, we get some sort of development in the next. Uh, I wouldn't say it'll be this week. I think that'll be too soon. I mean, in the next coming weeks, hopefully, before the window closes, we get clarification that Konate has signed a new contract for the long-term future. So hopefully, that is what we get. Uh, got a few comments here from Double D. Um, he says Hato sadly maybe going to Chelsea. I saw the rumor. Don't know how concrete or reliable it is. They're also signing Xavi Simons as well. So they're trying to do the whole Dutch FC. They're trying to replicate what we're doing. We've got a Dutch coach. That's why we're trying to get Dutch players. I'm not sure what kind of boat they're on. So yeah, if he goes there, I would be disappointed because he's a player I've been speaking about for about a year now, maybe even longer to be fair. And I feel like he's such a great profile where he predominantly played left back, but he's so good that he's able to play left centre back as well. Gives us great versatility and allows us to be adaptable to playing in different formations. So for me, he would have been a great signing for the club. But if he goes there, it'll definitely be a shame. But we'll see. Chelsea just love to buy a player or two, don't they? So let's see, if they're able to complete that deal. And it's a bizarre one, slightly, I have to say, because a left-footed centre back is not really a priority. I think a right-footed centre back would have made more sense. They've got Kobo, they've got Balashile. Of course, they're not of the highest caliber of players. But in terms of left back, if he's brought in to be a left back at Chelsea, he's got Cucurella ahead of him. So, does he want to be a number two at Chelsea? It would be up to him. But I feel like he's going to have to play for a top team in the first team lineup. I think he's that kind. I think he has that kind of potential. So if he goes, yeah, it would certainly be a shame. Uh, Coming here from LFC 20 says Gomez made of glass. Yeah, he's not had the best of injury records in recent years, has he? That's what I felt like it would have made sense to have bought another defender on top of Guehi. So if we had bought an Hato, for example, then it would have been Guehi and Hato as your third and fourth choice, and then have Gomez as your fifth choice centre back, but an option for all the other positions across the defense line. So Joe Gomez on paper would be someone that covers all three positions in terms of left back, centre back, and right back. So I would have preferred to have done that, but I feel like it's probably too much to do in one window. So as long as we get Guehi and we've got Joe Gomez, and hopefully we're not using him too much, where he's picking up injuries or he's getting overplayed or anything like that. Another unpopular option would be Robertson, where he can play in the centre back role if required. So on paper, I guess he would be listed as the fifth choice. So we've got decent options there. And Endo can play centre back as well. So we should be fine in terms of that defensive position. So Gay for me is the key. If you get Gay, then it just solidifies quality and depth in our squad. So I'm really hoping we can get that over the line soon as well. Ilyas, he says, I don't want to hear any Liverpool, I'm assuming fans who's talking money or price. FSG kept a lot of money at least 10 years ago, 10 years sharp. Let them down now. Okay. Okay, interesting. Any Liverpool fans saying who's talking price tag or money are spy for FSG or deluded as Arsenal fans. Let's see. It's the first time we spent a lot of money in this window, so you can't you know rule out any further sort of expenses happening. But we'll see. We're on cloud nine right now, and look, whether you like it or not, we deserve to have this kind of excitement about this window because it's not something we've ever been through before. and many teams haven't either. So the way we're moving right now, we're moving like big bullies in the playground. So I'm liking it. If you're not, that's your opinion. But uh, for me, it doesn't really matter how much we spend on players as long as we get the players. That's all I care about. Though D mentioned earlier on that it's not his money. It's neither of our money. So as long as the club does the right thing and spend wisely, or not even spend wisely, spend on the right profile for our squad, then that's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm, you know, more into, because for me, it needs to be where we address any weaknesses that we have in the squad and try to build a complete squad. That way, next season, Arsenal shouldn't have any reservations to rotate players, and should be, you know, w- selecting the team with free mind. He's not going to think, oh, that player doesn't have the sufficient quality to do what I want him to do. Every player in that squad should be ready made as an on slot player, that whenever called upon, they are ready to go. That's the kind of level, or that's the kind of caliber players I want in our squad. So when we rotate, we don't feel that drop, because there has been, players over the years where if someone's fit or not available, the drop is you know, quite visible, and I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be where, yeah, you'll get a slight drop off, but the player that comes in has the quality to, have an impact in the team. So for me, as long as we sign the right players, that will bode well with me. I'm not too hugely concerned about the fee, or when it's the finalization of a fee, because I know a lot of fans are still talking about Ekitike, saying, "Oh, that's a lot of money," but end of the day, he's the profile that we've identified. So we've got a man. So we should be happy that we've signed the player that the club really rate highly. And we're going to, based on the eye test that the scouts have watched him, but also the data team. They've run down the numbers, and they're like, he's forecasted to be very, very good over the years, or very efficient from goals. So yeah, this is good times to be a Liverpool fan for sure. We've got a comment here from says Kong Patrick Ring, says, he says we should go for Eze if Diaz leaves. I do like Eze. I rate him very, very highly. I don't know if he would be the right type of replacement, because I see Eze more as a number 10. So had we not signed Florian Wirtz, I feel like Eze would then, been a player for that role more so than not. But as your left winger, I want someone a bit more direct, a bit more pacey, someone that attacks from behind, and has that kind of impact on the left wing. But I like Eze, so if he was to join Liverpool, I would definitely be over the moon about that. But I don't think it's the right profile that the club will be looking at. Um, LFC 20 says, do you think PIF have told the side clubs not to go for Nuno to try and block the Isak deals? Never thought of that, to be fair. I don't know. I don't think eh, I don't think that would be the case. I'd be very surprised if that is the case. Um, but no, I don't think so. I think with the Nunes deal, Al Hilal. So the two teams that were registering an interest in signing Nunes was Al Hilal and Al Nassr. Now, Al Hilal is the team that's trying to pursue Isak right now. So I think they are focused on trying to get a deal done with him, because the agent, in terms of Isak's agent, he's been talking a lot, saying, we're doing our best to um get a good deal for our clients. So whether that's him getting a new contract at Newcastle or a move elsewhere remains to be seen. But in terms of other teams, Al Nassr is a team that have interest in Nunes, but it could just simply be where Nunes isn't quite, fond of the idea of moving to Saudi, or there's discussion in the background and we just aren't, viable to seeing what happens. So let's see. I don't know if there's anything to do PIF, um, but you never know. To be honest with you, um, you never know, because of course there will be some sort of conflict of interest in regards to that. Um, I would not. I would hope not. I hope that's not the case. Elias says Slot is building a team to challenge the best four teams in the world: Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, City. Arsenal who and United? Yeah, Arsenal aren't it? You know the way Arsenal fans are shamelessly celebrating the signing of Gyökeres. Like, look, don't get me wrong. If we sign it, I think our fans would probably do the same thing. You know, you start doing those poses and all that kind of stuff. But Arsenal fans just take it up another level. Don't they? They notch it up and they just become unbearable, shameless, or however you want to describe it. But it's funny, and I find it quite ironic that Arsenal fans, amongst other fans as well, have said that Liverpool are ruining football or they're ruining the league right now because, you know, with their spending and all that sort of stuff. But Arsenal has spent, you know, a good share of money as well. It's not like they've not bought anyone. They've signed Gyökeres for about 70 odd million. Zubimendi cost about 55. Madueke cost about 50. Norgard cost them 10. I think I don't know if it's concluded, but Mosquera, the Valencia defender, he cost around 20. Kepa cost about 5. Now that's 200 plus million there. So you're not far off Liverpool. You're neck and neck in terms of what we're spending. The difference is that we've signed better caliber players in comparison. So and that's not me just being a biased Liverpool fan. That's me comparing the two lists and thinking, nah, Liverpool have signed the better quality players, in my opinion. So let's see what happens in regards to Arsenal if they're going to be genuine challengers for us. United, we've got a lot of United friends that have been telling me that this is the year where they try and compete, and you know, I, I had to tell them politely, like, no, they got to dream on because they are way, way far behind to even challenge for even top four, let alone, you know, challenge for the title. There would be, you know, it would be a success for them to be in the top half, considering what happened last season. So, of course, they're making some decent recruits there. They've signed Cunha and Burma, but for me, you know, they have to sign a proper striker that complements those two. If it's not the right profile, then it kind of breaks up the team a little bit. It doesn't, you know, add the right balance, and that's United written all over it because they always sign players based on name or brand rather than profile. Are they the right players to improve the current squad or complement the players that are already there? That's not how they strategize anything. So yeah, I agree. We're competing with, you know, the likes of Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, and City, but I feel like in terms of domestically, we're above everyone else. Even City. I know City have recruited very well, but I feel like, you know, Liverpool are adding the right quality, and it's not just the player in terms of what we're bringing, the profile. You know, they're all early 20s, but playing at the highest level at the minute and on the verge of, you know, achieving better things in the future. So we've signed some real top players this summer, and it looks like we haven't stopped. Apparently, according to Paul Joyce, we'll be signing more players as well. So yeah, interesting to see what happens. Let's go a comment here from Kieran. Big up Kieran says, hello guys, very happy to see the official announcement. Let's keep this momentum and go and get some more signings in. Diaz replacement, Nunez replacement, and a centre back, please. I definitely give you that, Kieran. Those are the three areas I feel like we will be recruiting by the end of this window. Who they are, we'll of course talk about it, you know, whenever we get any sort of inkling or any, you know, rumors circling in the airways. But yes, those are definitely the three areas I feel like Liverpool should be addressing in this window. Now, on to the next player, and it is Marc Guehi. So we got some sort of development today, and the development is that Crystal Palace have told Marc Guehi that their preference is a sale, that they would like to sell Marc Guehi because he's probably shown, you know, some sort of indication that he's not going to sign a new contract at Palace. So Palace have communicated and welcomed bids coming from other teams for the defender. The fee that they're looking for is around £45 million, which I think is a little bit high considering he's in the final year of his contract. And right now, the rumor is that Liverpool would only place an official bid if that price is reduced because it's above our valuation. So My thoughts on this rumor, I think they're trying to get as many suitors lined up as possible. Liverpool have been on in the front seat. They've been behind the wheel, strong contenders to sign Marc Guehi, and I feel like Marc Guehi has probably voiced his, his appeal to join Liverpool with the club. So they're trying to gain as much attraction for him. Tottenham are the latest team to show interest. I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea were able to reignite their interest on a former player. So they're trying to get as many suitors down the line and try and make it into an auction. Who's going to bid the highest? Because they want 45 million. Liverpool aren't willing to spend that much. Tottenham might, because they've been linked to Zabani, and I think he's not close, but he's pretty much uh, interesting PSG, and they are still in the mix to try and get that deal done. And if Zabani was a realistic option for them, he's actually available for around 60 million. So they've got the finances to bid 45 million. Chelsea do need to address that position, but as WD mentioned, it looks like they might be in the market for Hato, which of course is a Liverpool target as well. Um, but I really hope we get Marc Guehi. Adding him to the squad ticks so many boxes. Very young, 24 years of age, English, homegrown, a leader on the pitch, both footed, can play on the left side, right side of the centre back position, can play in a back three, can play in a back four. Some people question his height, like he's 6 foot, but there's a lot of defenders that are 6 foot. Hato is 6 foot. A player that a lot of fans want us to sign, Lukeba, he's 6 foot. So, 6 foot is not short, to be honest with you. So, um, he's definitely very athletic. He's able to defend against the best strikers in the league. He's been doing it consistently for the last 2, 3 years. So for me, this is a player that is ready made to join the champions, and I feel like he will get a lot of game time with us. Some fans are saying, why would he join Liverpool? He's at the stage of his career where this is an important season for him. If he performs well, he'll be able to play for England in the World Cup next year. But I feel like he'll get plenty of game time. I know Thomas Tuchel wants players to be first team players week in, week out. He should know better in terms of that's not how modern day football is being played. Liverpool play so many games on average, play about 50, 60 games a year. So with that, we have to rotate the squad. He can't play all 50, 60 games. So we've got a duo in Van Dijk, Konate, who are probably one of the best defensive duos in Europe, probably in the world, in my opinion. But you've got Gay as well, who could definitely complement one or the other. He could play alongside Van Dijk with ease on the right side. With Konate, maybe Konate goes on the left, or Gay can play on the left. Whatever suits both of them, they're able to facilitate that with each other. So for me, he's the right quality, the right experience that we need in our squad. Because if we were to sign a Hato, for example, as our third choice, that for me is a bit of a drop down, not because of quality, because of experience. And I feel like with Gay, he's got that experience. And also, when we're playing cup games, a duo of Gehi and Joe Gomez, two players that have played alongside each other for England, that's a great combination there as well. So for those defenders, for me, that would be arguably the best defensive unit in the league. I think Arsenal might challenge because they've got about 10 centre backs. So that might be another argument for another day. But in terms of quality for the first team, I feel like that is, something that will be unmatched. And I feel like, we'd be solidifying that department very well. Of course, I'd love for us to get another midfielder, but that's been being a bit slightly too greedy in regards to getting another player there. But you know, having him in the side is such a positive stance from us. So yeah, I'm excited. I do believe we will sign him. I know Palace are trying to flirt with the idea of maybe getting other teams involved and making it into an auction. If the player has decided on his next club, which seems to be Liverpool, then he should be able to make that move at some point. In terms of the transfer fee, I think Liverpool will probably pay around 35, 40. I think they'll settle for that kind of bracket and yeah, hopefully get the defender over to Anfield. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some sort of development in the coming days. Just read that comment. Ilyas says in 2025, Liverpool is the Real Madrid in the Premier League, City like Barcelona, United still like Atletico Madrid. I think you're being a bit nice there. I'd probably put Man United as Valencia. I think Arsenal. But you said Arsenal's Valencia second best always. I think Arsenal. Arsenal's probably like Atletico Madrid, maybe because they don't tend to win a lot of titles. But then maybe that's a bit of a too much of a better comparison. Maybe a Sevilla or something like that. But yeah, yeah, they're not on the same wavelength. But it'll be interesting to see what they do next season because they feel like they've made adjustments to their squad. I don't think so, to be fair. I'll be doing a sort of Premier League prediction show once the window closes, and I'll assess the squad in more detail, and I'll present on the screen so we can see it visually. But I don't think they've upgraded that much. Like the Madueke deal, as crazy as it sounds, is not a bad deal in my eyes because he covers left wing and he covers Saka. They don't have a natural backup for Saka, but he is able to cover that role. So despite the backlash of him being signed, I actually think it's a bad signing. But the fee maybe a bit questionable, is a little bit high, but English tax is a thing, so that's probably why they had to pay slightly above than what they valued him at first. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating season, nonetheless. Now on to the next rumor is Alexander Isak. Now I can't do a show and not mention Isak's name. And the current sort of news that we're getting is that Liverpool are still monitoring the development of Alexander Isak at Newcastle. And that doesn't mean we're about to make an approach. Having said that, you know, for me, I'm sure everyone's seen the photos of him training alone. They try to add a PR spin and communicate to the world that he's got a bit of a thigh injury. It's the one that he suffered before the season concluded a few months ago. It's a recurring one, so we're just managing um, his sort of progress and making sure he's able to rehabilitate the way he wants to do and not to rush him in terms of first team action. I think that's BS. I think the player has shown his frustrations about not allowing Liverpool to proceed with a concrete bid and pretty much waving or rebuffing that offer or that approach from Liverpool, and it looks like his head's turned and he wants to move to the Premier League champions. So he's unsettled. That's how I'm seeing it right now, and because he's unsettled, it's not good for Newcastle because then they have a frustrated character within their camp. And even though it's pre-season and normally, it's a bit more relaxed in terms of the atmosphere, once the season starts, if you've still got a player there who's not fully committed to the cause, then you're better off, moving him on. It doesn't help the team. It actually impacts the team. With the morale could drop because they know the best player's not on it. So if he's not on it, then mentally the players aren't going to give their all. They're not going to be as sharp um, when they start playing. So for me, it's a big call in terms of what Newcastle do. If they don't want him to join Liverpool, they have to offer the money that he wants. He wants 300k a week. Are they able to do that? I don't think so. If they do, they've pretty much broken their wage structure. There might be some red flags during the season when it comes to PSR, which they're going to have to deal with potential fines and points deductions or whatever's the case. So they have to be very careful, in terms of how they move. Or they could, sell him on to either Liverpool or to a party in Saudi Arabia where, they're willing to spend, probably the most that they could do. Well, to be fair, it feels like in Saudi funds are limited, so they can literally offer whatever he wants, and he'll get that straight away. So it's going to be a big call because it's 2 points of calls here where it will define what happens. Newcastle need to be firm. They've rebuffed any approaches from Liverpool or any other team. So they've got to continue that stance. They can't all of a sudden be like, "Oh, do you know what? Yeah, we're interested. Like, come, let's talk. Why'd you reject us in the first place?" So if that's the case, then I feel like they've dropped the ball because I'm not just saying that because I'm a Liverpool fan, but if someone's willing to offer you 120 slash 130 million pounds for your striker, firstly, that's the British record. So, we've respected your position as a club, we respected the player because we value him as one of the best strikers in the league. And because of that, we've given you or we've presented a record bid. So it's not like we've offered you 60 million, the same price that you bought him with. We've offered double or just slightly above double if it's 130. So, we haven't been disrespectful, in regards to that approach because Newcastle fans are making it seem like we've done something criminal. We've done it in a legit manner. We've made an approach to see if Newcastle are willing to sell Isak. They didn't really give us a clear indication. It wasn't a yes, it wasn't a no. So we felt like that we were being strung along, and therefore we moved on and targeted another striker who ironically was their primary target in Hugo Ekitike. So we've got that player over the line now, and there is still room for a striker in our squad. We still have Nunes in our team, but he would definitely be departing at some point this summer. So there is a vacant space for another striker to come in. Could it be Isak? That's the dream right now. I don't know if it is. I'm just trying to be a bit realistic about this. I would love for it to happen. I wouldn't want more than anyone else, to see Isak in a Liverpool shirt. I just don't know if it's going to be a reality. But if I sound negative, hopefully I'm proven wrong and he does become a Liverpool player. Um, if I was to make a prediction, I have an inkling he might head over to Saudi. It's not the right move for him career-wise because he's on the verge of hitting his prime years right now. 26 years of age, has had two great seasons with Newcastle, scoring 20 plus goals. So he's on the verge of, continuing that and possibly, enhancing his legacy by being, known as one of the most lethal strikers in world football because he's scoring 20 goals in back-to-back seasons. So if he moves over there, he'll still have a high ratio there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the same level as playing in the Middle East in comparison to Europe. So if he goes there, of course, it's for the money, and I kind of get it as well. You have to think about your personal life and your family as well. In terms of the long term, because your football career is not very long. So again, if he moves there, I'm not gonna have too many qualms about it. But the dream would be to see Isak in the team. But let's see what happens. A lot of Liverpool fans are very confident that it will happen. I don't share that optimism because I just don't feel like it's going to happen. But if he was to join, then I'm not just going to jump on board because it's the cool thing to do now. It's because I've always wanted Isak to join the club. I just don't know if it's feasible for us to make so many signings because we're going to sign a Diaz replacement as well. To sign Ekitike, Isak, and Rodrygo, it's like playing career mode, isn't it? It's way above, what can normally be done. So let's see what happens. I'm still holding on to slight hope that it could be a reality, but I'm just trying to be a bit more logical with my thinking and approach. I don't think it will happen. But forget my negative energy. Hopefully, Liverpool can make it happen this summer. Um, Elias says, brother, Arsenal make me crazy. They're so deluded. The best manager who has never the LG. What I don't Liverpool will keep any manager 5-0 trophies. That's the thing. Think about our history. Like whenever we've had former coaches, so I've been a fan of Liverpool since the mid-90s. So I've seen managers like Roy Evans, who didn't win many trophies, but showcased a good brand of football. Julio won a decent amount. We had that one season where we won 5 trophies in 2001. So that's definitely an accolade there. Rafa Benitez, of course, Champions League, very close to winning the league as well as domestic cups. Brendan Rodgers wasn't very successful, so that's why he had to go to one extent. Roy Hodgson, the less said the better. Dark time. Then Kenny Dalglish came and settled the ship a little bit for us. And then then we had Jurgen Klopp after Brendan Rodgers, and then we've got Arnold Slot. So for me, we've always had good managers that definitely won trophies. No, of course, Roy Hodgson's not exempt from this scenario here, and Brendan Rodgers as well. But these managers definitely produced the goods for us. And the difference between our fan base and our fan base is that we're very loyal to our managers. We hold our managers to very high regards in comparison to other clubs. So the managers know they're always going to be given time to embed their philosophy with the squad and try to build success on a season to season basis. But with Arteta, he's a manager that really, really annoys me. I don't know if you guys have seen his comment today where he said that there's 8 possible challenges for the title. 8 teams he thinks that can win the league. Name me those 8 teams because there's not many teams that I think that can win the league. I'd say Liverpool, of course, the favourites. You've got Man City, Arsenal with an outside chance. I don't mean Chelsea, United, Tottenham. These teams aren't ready to win the league. Chelsea might be an outside, so that's 4. That's me being generous there. The other teams are nowhere near winning the league title, so I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he's feeling the pressure already. You know, the season hasn't started yet, and he's already making excuses. So for me, it's his arrogance. Like he thinks he's above what he really is, and he thinks he's either equal or superior to those other managers that are actually successful. You know, I remember where he tried to, have a go at Jurgen Klopp. You gotta relax yourself. Lampard did that. You know, he got sacked a few months later. So, know your role in terms of where you are in the pecking order. You're at a big club, yes. Arsenal are a big club, but you've not achieved anything. And what the trophy that you won wasn't even your team. You know, you came mid-season and just and re-energized the squad a little bit, and they went on to progress and win the trophy. They only had like 2, 3 rounds to play after that anyway. So yeah, it's wild, wild in terms of what the things that come out of his mouth, and even last season, saying we've attained as many points as Liverpool in the space of 12 months, so we should be title winners. This guy doesn't know how football works, does he? So the excuses that come out, is relentless, and but it's a match made in heaven because some of the fans at Arsenal they feed off that kind of comment and they're all with it and they like support that as well. So for me, they're gonna be disappointed. I don't think they're challenging for the title. I think they will be around the top 4. I don't think they'll challenge for the title. Man City are the closest ones, but even their team for me doesn't seem as complete right now. And apparently they were winning football, but they spent 200 million in January as well. So let's not forget that. But we'll see. We'll let the football do the talking. That's how I say it. Elias says, I knew Isak is the next season business. Liverpool gave the signal it's up to him, not to small club like Newcastle. I actually feel like, look, if we don't get Isak now, we might get him next summer. That's how I'm forecasting it because he's definitely our primary target. He's definitely the one that we really, really want in our team. It might be the case now. Maybe I'm thinking slightly beyond what's a reality. But maybe because we didn't get an indication that they're willing to sell Isak, we've got an Ekitike because we're thinking Ekitike would have been a signing for next season. Isak, if Isak was to have been signed now, then it would have been Isak and then another attacker behind him. And then next season we will strengthen by adding another attacker that's young and upcoming, and that will end up being Ekitike. So it's a nice kind of transition because you have the one of the best strikers now, and then next season you buy someone that's going to be an understudy and learn off him and then become that guy eventually. But we've kind of done it in reverse order because we couldn't get Isak um, because Newcastle weren't willing to sell, and in the end we've pretty much probably got Ekitike a year earlier than planned. But we have been linked with Ekitike for some time, so it's not a player that's come out of the blue. We've been watching his progress over the years, so I'm excited about Ekitike. If there's any chance that Isak is available this summer, I think we'll go for him. But I don't feel like there is. And if there is any team that gets him, it's a Saudi team because I feel like that's the only team Newcastle will negotiate with because to the owner connection, that could be a thing. And also, it could be a thing where they know that they're not strengthening another rival. We're not their rival, but they're not strengthening another Premier League team. That of course they're going to have to face. So that would be their thinking. But let's see. I feel like this Isak news is going to be prolonged as this weeks go on, and we're probably going to get some sort of clarity at the end of the window. I think that's when we're going to see if he stays at Newcastle, or does he join Liverpool, or does he go to Saudi. I think those are the three scenarios. Um, Let me know in the chat where you think he'll end up. Do you think he'll stay at Newcastle? Do you think he'll leave to join Liverpool, or do you think he'll end up chasing the cash and moves over to Saudi Arabia? So let me know what you guys think in the chat. Uh, Kenneth says to Elias, I would add the word consistently to your statement, as we have beaten all four of those teams with some regularity. We came very close to being a significant PSG team last season. The first leg was just like, wow, we just got a last minute winner. But you know, I feel like, and also it has confirmed this as well. I think with less rotation, the team felt the impact. We weren't, as fresh towards that part of the tournament. And I feel like that's something that needs to be rectified next season, where we rotate more, so players are more fresh in that second part of the season. And we did compete. Luis Enrique has said it publicly as well that Liverpool were his toughest opponents last season. So we definitely gave them a run for their money. It was a small margins. In the second leg, I don't think we produced any chances to really, or not clear cut chances to really, trouble the scoreline there. So it was a shame. But yeah, lesson learned, and I'm sure we will try and improve from it in this upcoming season. Jimmy says he actually said 9, not 10, not 8. Sorry. Wow. I didn't know he said 9. I thought he said 8 teams. That's even worse. Who's the ninth team now? Bloody hell, this guy. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up when it comes to Arteta. Talks absolute nonsense. Ilya says Isak case the Messi Liverpool gave were just money. It was come win something while we have the money to sign you, or think next season 2026. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we'll just close our interest if we can't game. We'll definitely make sure we try and game next summer. That would be the priority. So let's see what happens. Kieran says, I think Isak will stay at Newcastle for the upcoming season and then move on next year, hopefully to us. I hope so as well. I think that is probably the most likely scenario. Um, It'll be interesting to see, what his kind of state of mind is going into next season, because he would still have some sort of resentment of not being able to join Liverpool this summer, where he knew that the interest was strong. We made an approach. We were willing to spend a British world record of 120 to 130 million to sign him. We weren't just making fake inquiries. We were ready to place a bid. So he knows that, and we probably had some discussions with him and his reps at some point. Um, so it's just one of those things where maybe we just have to be patient, and he'll have to wait another season, and maybe we'll get him next year. But you never know. You never know. I agree with your logic. I think I kind of co-sign that as well. But you know, maybe due to the excitement of this transfer window, I'm a little bit, giddy about it. Where I'm thinking maybe we'll get as many players as possible. So let's see where he ends up. Ozan Kabak, Ozan Kabak says, "Getting Ozzy, what a transfer window, and we're not done yet." That's the crazy thing about Ozan Kabak, because you know Paul Joyce dropped a bomber earlier on saying that Liverpool are able to spend another £300 million, which is absolutely ludicrous, because think of the way we've been doing business over the years, where we've been very tight with our money. We had a sell to buy policy. Now it's like buy whoever we want, and then we'll sell them on eventually, and balance the books, in the end. But it's crazy. I've got John Henry on the screen with a truckload of money. That's what it feels like right now. It feels like Liverpool mean business this window. Um, Another 300 million just sounds crazy, because when you say it out loud that we've already spent Ekitike, that's as part of that spending spree as well. With another 300 on top, Isak is realistic if you think of the money involved there. Then you can go Rodrygo, that probably equals to just over 200 million. Guehi will be about 40 million, so that's about 250. And you got 50 million left, so why not get a midfield as well? Look, you never know. Honestly, this window has been crazy. I was speaking to my missus last year. I was doing weekly transfer talk shows because Liverpool weren't doing much. This year, look, I'm doing shows every day, without fail because there's always some sort of development. Of course, I'm enjoying the engagement from the viewers as well. So I feel like, it's always good to talk about what's happening so we can discuss the development as the day goes on. But last year it was so quiet. I was thinking I can't even come on the show and do a live show. I have nothing to talk about. Who we're going to be linked to, who we're going to sign. We ended up signing Chiesa, but that was like a last minute deal because he became available all of a sudden. So who knows? Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I'm loving it. Don't get me wrong, I'm loving it. Um, but because of that tweet or that quote that Liverpool have 300 to spend, I feel like I don't like the way that's been publicly put out there because now teams are going to up the prices. Newcastle are going to say 150 for Isak now, and Rumours are going to say at least 100 for Rodrygo. So I never like when finances are revealed in that way, whether they're true or not. It still has that indication that Liverpool are ready to spend big. But because of the magnitude of our window so far, it could be a fear factor tactic from our part where we've signed all these top players, but we're telling people we're not done. We got more ammunition. We got 300 million in the bank or 300 million in the truck that John Henry has on screen right now. So there's clearly, room for negotiation and there's room for adding more players to our squad. So who knows? Honestly, um, we've still got about 5 weeks left of this window. So the season starts in about 3 weeks' time, but the window doesn't close until the end of August. So yeah, it's exciting times. I feel like realistically and thinking with a calm head and not getting too gassed about the situation, I think we'll sign three more players. I think it will be a left winger. Actually, no, it'll probably be two more players because we've got Ekitike. So Ekitike is the striker. I think he will, on paper, replace Nunes. I think we'll sign a left winger like a Rodrygo. I think he will come in to replace Diaz. And I think we'll start signing Marc Guehi as Conso's replacement. So those are the three additions to the squad. Um, but yeah, we'll see if we're going to add even more numbers to that list there. Ozenkoa says Mama, Dashvili, Frimpong, Kirkes, Verts, Ekitike, and the great Freddie Woodman and Pepsi. Don't forget the Hungarian goalkeeper there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 signings already. So we're making moves, but I think Gehi, I think Rodrigo, that type of caliber of a winger should be next in line. So hopefully, we can make that happen in due course. Kieran said, "Did Paul Joyce really say that? I didn't see that. That's great news." Let me see if I can bring it up. So with Paul Joyce, he won't tweet um certain statements, but he'll have a link to his article. Unfortunately, I don't have the subscription to the Times, so I can't read the full article. But let me see if I can find it. I'm sure I saved it earlier on today. Because shout out to Hamza, he mentioned it on the top of the show. That's what was presented. Um, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there is any sort of truth to that. Let me see if I can find anything. I saw Ivan Shvokov saying that. Um, let me share it actually, make it a bit more viewable for everyone. That Liverpool are confident they can sign Isak. So that's interesting, though, isn't it? That that we still have the confidence that we'll add another striker to our thing. So I don't know, honestly, guys. This is dreamland stuff, in terms of us hearing that we're going to sign Isak and Ekitike. You feel like we're just playing career mode on FC25 or something because it's unheard of. It really is. This is not something that we normally move like this. This is not the way Liverpool do business. Um, so this is from Anfield sector. So let me put it on the screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. Let me do it now. There we go. So it says a spending spree of almost 300 million is set to continue. So I don't know if that is. So we've got to be careful in terms of how we read that. Does that mean 300 plus to what we currently spend, or is it where because we've almost spent 300 million pounds and we haven't really had much outgoings, are we trying to balance the book? So it's a tricky one to take, but when you read it first time, you just assume that it's going to continue. So we're going to have that kind of range. So it's going to be close to 300 million pounds that we're going to spend. Um, and honestly, the the picture underneath summarizes it even better. That's what it feels like. It feels like we've got Sheikh Henry, getting all the deals done right now. It's quite um it's it's quite strange. We're not used to this kind of level of spending. We always say, and I've been saying for a long time from our owners, I like the way they do business, but they don't show ambition in the transfer market. They're not aggressive. They're not signing the best players available, especially when you're on top or when you're at a good level. But I don't know. I don't know. You just right now, Liverpool moving very unpredictable, which we don't know what else they're gonna do. So it's a positive thing, but at the same time, it's a little bit uncertainty as well. Jordan says, big up, Jordan. Hope you're well. Um, Other comment says, Aussie, I saw a table earlier which outlined all the winnings we made from the last years. I feel like I saw something like that as well. Let me see if I can bring that on the screen, and yeah, I will share that with you as well. Let me see if I got that saved. But yeah, I saw it as well because it was a great breakdown. Fans just assume that we're just splashing the cash for the sake of it. But in reality, we've got the finances because we've actually won things, unlike other teams where, they haven't won much. So yeah, we're a team that, deserve to be going on this kind of spending spree right now. Um, I'm just going through Twitter to see if there's any sort of breaking news because you just never know. We always tend to get breaking news at this time of night, but I can't see anything right now. But let me try and bring up that tweet as well. That presents sort of a breakdown. How much. Uh, I think this is the tweet here. So let me bring on. I think I found it. So let me bring it on the screen for you. Here we go. So look, in quotes, rival fans are saying Liverpool are spending so much money. But look at this, the numbers involved there. We won the league, which equaled of us obtaining 180 million. Finished top of the USL, the Champions League table. We get rewarded for that as well. That was 80 million. New analyst deal 60 million. Player sales this summer so far 60 million, but that is going to be added as well with further departures. So net transfer spend last season profit of 4 million. So success on the pitch and being well run off it allows for the spending. And there you go. It says it in black and white there, and that is why we're moving like this. We haven't spent rigorously over the years, but this year we've been successful. With the Champions League, because of the new format right now, we've got so much sort of revenue coming through, including TV rights, but of course, like partnerships with other brands, all that sort of stuff, plus actually being successful on the pitch and winning as well. So for me, it validates our spending, if that makes sense. If your teams are being successful, you'll get to spend that one day as well. But yeah, at least we have a breakdown into the, why we're able to spend. And we're not going to be in sort of facing any issues regards to PSR. We're very well run, very well managed in terms of our finances. So look, it's an exciting time. That's all I can say right now. It feels like, we're part of something special here. The way we're finding, you know, all this money from John Henry and spending relentlessly. So yeah, I'm all for it. James said that just means we are going to spend more money on top of the 300 we have already spent. That's what I'm saying. I know some fans took it over there. It's like 300 on top. I don't know if it was 300 on top. I feel like it was basically saying that pretty much how you said it. 300 million is what we've currently roughly spent, but we've got more to spend. So that's why I feel like it's probably going to come down from sales now, where if we sell Diaz and Nunes, hopefully we're able to attain 140. Maybe I'm being optimistic about that kind of range bracket, plus the sale of Harvey Elliott. That'll be another 40 there. So let's say we get 70 apiece for Nunes and Diaz. That's 140. Elliott for 40. That's 180. Chiesa, unfortunately, I think he might leave. Let's say we get 20 for him. So that's 160. And then who else? Simicast for 10 million, 170 there. So, we're able to, and 170 can easily help us sign a Rodrygo and a Guehi as well. And that shouldn't cost us, that would probably cost us altogether 120. So we made a profit of like 50 million there just by selling some of those players. So that's what I'm saying. We've definitely got room to maneuver. Um, but yeah, it's exciting times nonetheless. Other than saying that, he didn't bookmark it. No worries. I found it. I eventually bookmarked it. So yeah, I was able to show it to you. It's good on you for bookmarking. Yeah, it was a very interesting. So I thought, yeah, do you know what? It might have to bring up at the show at some point, or if there's rival fans, got something to say, then I can always raise it up. Um, Ozan said, I do remember it was like 179 million pounds just for the winning Premier League. Yeah, because even when teams get promoted from the Championship, they get like 50, 60 million as well. I think it might be more now, to be honest with you. So it's a lot of money involved in football. That's why Liverpool, for the first time, have probably come to realization we're making so much money, but we've got to reflect that and replicate onto the pitch as well. So good on them, and they will definitely be getting their accolades or their praise or their flowers right now because they're doing what we wanted them to do, to be ambitious in the transfer market and make great additions to the squad, and they're doing that right now. So I haven't seen FSG out, being banded around anywhere, and I hope it's not because I don't think it's the right time because they are doing a great job right now. So yeah, exciting times for us. And that is it for today. We'll leave it on John Henry presenting a load of cash in his band there. I just got a comment here from Ozan Kabak. He said, last question, Ozzy. Thoughts on rival fans saying we must win the quadruple due to spending all this money? I'm chuckling as I'm reading that comment because rival fans have so much to say. Whenever it comes to Liverpool, you must do this, you must do that. No, we don't. We have our own expectations. We're going to do things our way. We're not here to do it for their entertainment or to appeal to them in any shape or form. Of course, as Liverpool fans, we're going to be dreaming of a quadruple. Why not? We'll talk about that once the transfer window concludes, because then if we've had a few additions, if we had Isak, the dream there, plus Guehi, plus Rodrygo, then yeah. But obviously, they're just gonna try and rattle us as Liverpool fans and try and put pressure on us to not fail. Because even if we drop points, if we draw a game, we're going to get hounded by rival fans, and they're gonna say, "Oh, you're dropping, guys are doing, spend 100 million on this guy, like you're not doing anything." So they've always got something to say. They've always got something to say. But in the end, once we play our football, once we start winning games, when we start lifting up trophies, that should do the talking for us. So no one puts pressure on certain teams when they spend money. Arsenal spent just as much or close enough to us as well. So why is there not pressure on them? Their managers trying to deflect it by saying 8 or 9 teams should are close enough to winning the title. How shameless are you to say that out loud? There's no league in the world that has 8 or 9 potential champions. Who was close to winning the title last season? It was only Arsenal to an extent, but they definitely bottled it, when it came to about February, March. So it's just unnecessary noise from Arteta. He's trying to take the pressure off himself because he knows he spent a good amount of money now. He's got his players. He's got Zubimendi. He's got Gyökeres. He's got Madueke. I know Madueke is not everyone's cup of tea, but he's got the attacker that he wanted in his team. So he's signing Mosquera, all these defenders. Loves a defender, doesn't he? But he's signing players that he's clearly wanting to have at the club. So you can't talk. You honestly can't. So when Real fans come with that kind of taunt to say like, oh yeah, you got to win everything now. I just literally one ear, one out the other. Don't really care what they got to say because they're always just gonna put unnecessary pressure on us. Football's not won by just spending a lot of the money. No, we've probably won the transfer window, but the hard work begins when the season starts. So for us, we're not going to take it for granted. We're going to probably sit down, enjoy the ride, because I know we're going to play a different brand of football. I'm so excited in terms of the players we've added. Uh, Last season was good in terms of playing, more composed, more calculated type football, but being, counter attacking whenever we needed to. I feel like we're going to do it in a different manner this season. So all the teams in the league and Europe should watch out. It's definitely going to be an interesting season for Liverpool, to say the least, just to put it down to modest terms. And I was like, Kovacs agrees with me saying facts, big up yourself. Paul White, big up Paul White. He says, I think we will go for Isak all out. We won't be able to. I hope so. I hope so. I really hope we do. I want us to at least place a bid to test the waters because they're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're not interested. But when you flash the money at them, oh, okay, I'll take that. So it's like gold digger kind of form, isn't it? Where you show someone the money and they're like all the eyes open, they're like all lit up by it. So that might be Newcastle right now. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we do test the waters and place a bid. That will show where Newcastle are because they need the money. They won't say out loud. They need the money. They're getting rejected left, right, and center. So if that's the case, they need to find the revenue to strengthen their squad. They're in the Champions League. They don't have the squad to compete in that league. And some fans are like, "Oh, if we had signed Ekitike, we would have won the league." So you know they've got a lot of energy right now, but they're not adding anyone to their squad. I thought they had Trafford over the line. That's not even a Newcastle player right now. He's on the verge of joining Man City. So yeah, they've got a lot of chess right now for no reason. Just because they're keeping their star player doesn't mean you're going to be successful this season. You haven't added to the squad. That's the key for their success next season. So it'll be very interesting. Let's see what happens. Kieran says another great show tonight. See you in the next stream. Good night, guys. Big up yourself, Kieran. Thank you for your comment. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as Kieran said, another great show, as always. And it all comes down to you guys contributing to the show. So shout out to Hamza, shout out to Katie, shout out to Graham, shout out to Double D, shout out to LFC 20, shout out to Elias, shout out to Seskong Patrick, shout out to we also have Kenneth, shout out to Kieran, shout out to Oz and Kabak, shout out to Jordan. And who else do we have? Shout out to Paul White. If I missed you, apologies, but shout out to everyone involved today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming show, we will be doing another show today. As I mentioned earlier on, the transfer news doesn't seem to stop when it comes to Liverpool. So we'll definitely be doing another show tomorrow around 11 p.m. time tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll get some sort of developments in regards to maybe an update on Guehi. Maybe Liverpool are willing to place a bid or an official approach. Maybe get some development on Isak. Whether it's Liverpool related or not, we will probably get some sort of news in regards to his next step in his career. And maybe we'll get some news regarding Diaz, Rodrygo, because I'm expecting Bayern to place that bid at some point this week. And we'll know if Liverpool are happy with the deal or are willing to accept that offer. Once we know, then we can start talking about left wingers and who should be a sort of his ideal replacement on paper. So we'll definitely have that discussion. Also, come back to send a comment. Everton apparently signing Lazar Markovic. That is hilarious because I actually saw a tweet that someone mentioned that he's available on a free transfer. If that is the case, that is hilarious. Honestly, I thought he would have retired by now. How old is Markovic now? He's 30, he's only 31. Wow. Only 31. Why did I feel like he was like retired or something? We did buy him quite young, didn't we? When he joined about 10, 11 years ago, isn't it? 2014, yeah. So bloody hell. That is funny. That is funny if they signed him. Um, I've been intrigued to see how he plays because he was very pacey when he joined us, but he had no end product. Uh, it might be the same, but with just less pace now. So yeah, let's see what happens if Lazar Markovic ends up joining Everton or not. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.